Hey, this is Notser, and we are in the Tier 7 Japanese aircraft carrier, Hiryu. She has 6 squadrons with 4 aircraft each, 2 torpedo, 2 dive bombers, and 2 fighter squadrons, 65 AA guns, a surface detect of 11.9 kilometers, top speed 34 knots, total of 45,600. For my modules, increase gun effectiveness, faster aircraft rearm, reduce the chance of flood and fire, faster flood and fire recovery. For my commander, situation awareness, basic survivability, basic firing training, faster torpedo rearm, faster torpedoes, and aircraft survivability. We are on the map Hotspot, and I have received plenty of requests. Why don't you play a Japanese aircraft carrier? Do you have a Japanese aircraft carrier? Yes, I do. I have been working on it, along with the Ranger, and it just so happens we now have that game worthy of sharing. Hopefully you enjoy it. So, I've got my number 4 and 5 squadron, the torpedo bombers, in pursuit of the Mayhan. We try and drop exactly where the torpedoes left the smoke. Admittedly, it's a terrible drop because he's nowhere near there. I tried to salvage the number 4 squadron because it was running out of aircraft. We dropped way too close to the enemy Soviet cruiser. But our terrible initial drop might actually net us a torpedo strike. And it does! We hit the Soviet cruiser. Now, we didn't cause a flood. We're going to try for a fire. And I dropped it just a little bit, a hair too early. The thing about the Japanese aircraft carrier versus the American aircraft carrier is their dive bombers, when manual is used, are very, very accurate. You have to land precisely on the target or you're going to miss completely. And to me, when you see a Japanese aircraft carrier incoming, that's the perfect time to use defensive fire. They don't have the amount of bombers to compensate for the inaccuracy that comes from defensive fire, enemy fighters. They're perfect to harass and to limit their effectiveness. Now, does that work all the time? No. You can see some ridiculous RNG factor where the bombs just land magically only on your ship. There's nothing you can really do at that point. But you can see how I'm playing. A good aircraft carrier captain will keep the destroyer scouted. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I don't see any enemy aircraft in the area. I'm prioritized to help out when attacking the enemy. If I don't find any reason for the fighters, they're just going to scout over destroyers. And the game's not going to reward it. There's nothing in the game that tells you to do this other than you doing it yourself. And I think that's wrong, of course. Now we see that the New Mexico has a scout aircraft out, probably hoping to get intel on sea. I'm in the process of trying to take it out, and first sight of the enemy. He also has his fighters bunched up, and he's right next to my torpedo bomber. How did that happen? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my number 3. We're going to do an attack path in the area. I'm going to consider using my number 2 for it. But instead, he has chosen to completely attack my squadron. Now, I'm also doing the attack path, trying to wipe him completely out. We don't do it. We kill our aircraft, of course, and that's what it does. It attacks everything. Hopefully, my squadron can take it out. We've got to use our torpedo bombers whenever they're available. We send them out, do a manual drop on the New Mexico. I leave enough room with the understanding that he will turn into it. We land 2 torpedoes. We cause 1 flood. Probably going to force out his damage control. My fighter's doing absolutely nothing. And it looks like I'm going to have a chance to lead the New Mexico and might get 3 or 4 torpedoes with this attack. Dive bombers are also in the area, and we're trying to set up a manual attack along with the torpedoes hitting the target, more floods, more fires, and he's probably just going to put it all out. This is an ineffective attack if you want to leave a dot on the target. And I was considering pulling back this single dive bomber because there's no question he would use damage control if he had available. 2 floods, a couple fires, he has to put it out. And I'm trying to exploit the fact that maybe he has already done that and he's susceptible to another attack. But you have to wait probably 10 or 15 seconds after the attack to confirm the flood's out, the fire's out, and he was still ticking down. I didn't want to waste the time hovering over him. I felt like, okay, maybe he has been set on fire before. He had to hold it, what have you. If you hover around them, they might actually just hold out for the entire time. I've done that before. In my last aircraft carrier video, some people were questioning, why didn't you put out the 2 fires? I knew there was a dive bomber south of my position that had yet to drop his load. I was hoping that he would come in and drop it. Instead, he waited the entire duration. He then went in, set me on fire again, and I put that out. It's very important that you try and maximize your ability to prevent floods and fires. Now, this Nicholas is a little scary. The game doesn't look good, right? They have 2 bases to R1, and the only people on the map are from the eastern spawn. Everyone on the west is dead, except for a token battleship, who's all the way on the west. Maybe he can take 1 or 2 with them. It's not good. We only see 1 destroyer. Oh, there's another one. Okay, so we know that the destroyers are looking. Looking for what? Probably looking for me. I'm going to head back east, hoping to avoid them. I'm going to send my number 4 squadron on this Nicholas. Now, I gave plenty of lead. He might still be able to avoid it, unless his friend doesn't get in the way, and his friend does. His friend knocks him into my torpedo. We cause a flood. He's going to put it out, of course. And I think we actually took out his propulsion, so he's a little sluggish. And I'm going to try an even closer attack on the Nicholas. He obviously sees this is coming, and he's maneuvering against it. I notice that one of my fighters is engaged. I send the other to assist. So, the torpedo attack is not going to work. He should never run into him. If he runs into it, he's dead. I try to take advantage of this, knowing that he's going to be held straight, but I don't get there quite early enough to prevent the fighter from debuffing me. You notice the huge bloom whenever the fighter engaged. I decide to go after the Hotspot. Of course, it would work better, Notser, if you actually drop it before the edge. And, oh, this is really annoying. But you notice how I'm dragging the waypoint through the ship. That helps me not make a mistake by clicking on the waypoint whenever I try and set a manual attack. And there we go. That's what you wanted. You want a manual dive bomb on a destroyer. And, this is really close. Destroyers move so fast, and the dive bomber indicator is so tiny for manual that you really need to be right at the target to decide when you want to drop it. Otherwise, they can move out of the way. So you really want to maximize the time that the dive bomber is moving to the target and immediately set your best guess right before that dotted line. If you put it after, it's not effective. And finally, we set an area, but he does dodge it. And for a little bit, I was actually scouted by that New Mexico, the target that we did damage to earlier, and he was under the effect of a flood or a fire or whatever. Now, that destroyer knows we are somewhere northeast of his position, and I'm just trying to kill him so bad. We're really dropping at the last possible second, and we need to do a better job. And I was a little worried. There's a lot of aircraft incoming. I need to make sure that I get my aircraft up to counter at least the dive bombers or the torpedo bombers before they hit. And we finally set number 5, and it looks pretty good. He is not going to be able to avoid it completely. We're going to hit him once. Okay, can we get him again? I really would like to take this guy out. We have to do this rather quickly because the fighter group is coming, and we know what they want to do. They want to make us inaccurate. And he's going right for the one. He knows which one has yet to drop. And he hasn't had full control. I have a friendly cruiser right on him at this precise moment that is helping me out. He can't keep up with the actions required to both juggle his ship and defend his destroyer. And we're going to take advantage of this, of course. The destroyer is getting really close, and I can't fit in. I'm just big enough to take both torpedoes. I choose to use damage control. It caused a flood. That's the way it went. The attack was terrible. I missed it. It had to go around. It was completely too slow. We didn't do any damage to the Hotspot. But friendlies were able to kill it. There's only 2 destroyers left. One of them is a Nicholas that we did damage to. And our team is fighting back. They've taken out the enemy aircraft carrier, which is great. I no longer have to deal with that at all. But we still have a lot to do. We've got cruisers. Probably a destroyer, maybe 2 destroyers at B. We have to defend this. This is not good. Okay, yeah, we know. Okay, who is the destroyer that's trying to capture B? I send my aircraft directly to the smoke. Anytime you want... Okay, it's a Nicholas. Anytime you want to find a destroyer, smoke is the best place to start. So now that we know there's a Nicholas at B he just captured, it looks like the Omaha is actually going to take torpedoes directly on his position. And the Omaha has a fighter out. I send my fighters to take out his protecting fighter. I would like to drop on the Nicholas. For whatever reason, he has yet to move out, and he's just now realizing, we can't make these mistakes. He's still pretty sluggish, so the manual should be effective. Okay, good. We cause a fire. We did 1,500 points of damage. We also have a dive bomber close by. We have taken out that fighter, or it's just not there anymore. Can we take him out? Come on, get him. I think we've got this. It's really annoying. It's really annoying. You're trying to get at the precise direction that the destroyer is headed. Maybe he's a little sluggish. And as a destroyer captain, you need to commit to dodging every single one. And hopefully the aircraft carrier makes a mistake. The torpedo bombers are much better at taking out a destroyer if you can do it correctly. Now, we see a Nicholas, of course. This is the other Nicholas. And I'm trying to set up. I see that he is a little bit committed to going straight, so I give a lot of lead. I would hate to not have it activate in time, and it does. Good. We gave plenty of lead. Sometimes they'll turn away, sometimes they'll turn towards, sometimes they're hoping that you'll drop just too close to them and it won't be deactivated before it reaches the target. And I would prefer to go after this Nicholas, but he does not want to die to me. You can see he's messing with his rudder, and I just say, hey, okay, fine. The enemy Furutaka, who is right next to an island, where can you go, buddy? Where can you go? We're going to attack him. We're going to give plenty of room because he's going to turn into the torpedoes. And we do get 2, which is awesome. We don't get a flood, though, which is not awesome. Now, you would notice I had selected the torpedo bomber, and if I wasn't paying attention, I might have left the torpedo bomber without returning to the aircraft carrier to rearm. Make sure that you have your bombers and your torpedo bombers going back for rearm whenever possible. You can also set a waypoint and then add the F key, which is the return key, to the waypoint selection. That way you can avoid an area of cruisers. It's very useful when it's early on, they're bunched up, 3 or 4 of them will just wipe you out. You don't want to fly over that. You want to fly around it, but you don't want to have to babysit too much. And that's why the waypoint system is great. And I just want to do a quick check. Okay, Nagato, you're pretty low, but you're pretty far away. We've got to take care of the Nicholas and the Furutaka. Now, I've got the Nicholas. He hasn't changed, and we wait just half a second too long. And you might say, why are you making all these mistakes? Well, you want to be as accurate as possible. You want to wait until the very last second to drop on the target. That way, they haven't changed too much, right? And we drop just a little bit too far ahead. Manual with Japanese dive bombers is so frustrating at times, but the risk versus reward, you've got a highly accurate manual drop. You most likely will hit the destroyer if you set up the manual just right. And now I have my torpedo bombers, which are so much easier to use. We send our dive bomber towards the Furutaka. We land 2 fires on the Furutaka, which is great, and 3 bombs, 3 or 4, that's fantastic. I set up a manual attack. I give plenty of room to the Nicholas, and it's just too much. He can't get out of it. And we kill the Nicholas. Great. We already have our torpedo bomber rearmed. We're so close to this. Just barely outside of range. 1 kilometer. He's 12.9 kilometers away from my ship. 11.9 is my detectability. He's just barely not aware of where we are. And it looks like because he's got a gap he has to go through, he's got to commit pretty much to going straight. We're going to get 1 and another one. Is that enough? Yeah, we were able to catch him just barely. We take out the enemy Furutaka. And this game was back and forth, very close. I never really had to deal with the enemy aircraft carrier, which is a plus. The team did a good job finding and destroying the enemy aircraft carrier. Of course, the enemy team tried. They definitely tried, but they were unsuccessful. Now, just the Nagato. The Congo is very, very bold to show his side. There's 3 minutes left in the match. I can probably rearm 2 times. I think I can definitely take out a target that low with at least 1 full set. He's about 3 torpedoes, and you can substitute a torpedo per dive bomber squadron if you can land your manual, which is very easy. It's a battleship, right? You should hit every battleship manual you try and set. They just can't get out of the way. And we lose the friendly Congo. We need to get the kill. I was hoping that my friendly Hatsuharu is not going to kill himself, and I was a little worried. Oh, okay, he's good. He's good. Now, if you just see how we're having it set up, the friendly sent out his torpedoes. Probably not going to hit the battleship, but it's going to force him to maneuver for the torpedoes. I pull the waypoint through the ship, so I don't have any grabbing of the waypoint. That really screws up manual. And we set an attack. Fantastic. Only 1 more dive bomber, honestly. And is it really going to be needed? I think he's actually had to use damage control before. Yeah. He's going to die to the fire. See you later, Nagato. And it was a little hairy there. We had to get those destroyers. They were trying to get us. Most definitely. You asked them, we were going for the aircraft carrier. We were trying to get over to him and kill him. We got Confederate, devastating strike, 4 kills, 14 torpedoes hit the target, 1,948 base XP. I'd say that's a solid showing in an aircraft carrier. We did around 100,000 points of damage in the Japanese aircraft carrier. I hope you liked seeing it. Even if you don't play aircraft carriers, you could get an idea of how I was trying to attack my enemies, and you could use that to your advantage. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.